after a holistic appraisal of the performance.
Kenyans have been waiting to see how President William Ruto would react to growing discontent with his government.
I have today decided to dismiss with immediate effect all the cabinet secretaries and attorney general of the Republic of Kenya, of the Cabinet of Kenya.
Demonstrations began last month against a controversial finance bill that would have raised taxes. They started peacefully but turned violent. Police killed dozens of people after protesters stormed the Parliament building. President Ruto withdrew the bill. That didn't stop growing calls for him to step down. The streets have mostly been calm for the last week, but many of those who protested say a new cabinet is a small start, and Ruto has a long way to go to make real change.
When we come to appointing the new cabinet secretaries, because we'll need some in the near future, the president must ensure that there is vigorous vetting for these individuals. These should not be politicians, these should not be his friends, these should be technocrats, people from professions.
All those killer cops that killed people, we want them all to go home. We want the president to address the issues of all those people who are killed, the families.
William Ruto.
Ruto won elections 2 years ago by a narrow margin. Turnout was low. He'd promised to help ordinary people. Since then, the cost of living's gone up. And there's been growing criticism of his government. Several of his appointees who were implicated in past corruption scandals and crimes had their charges dropped after he took office. Critics say his government is the most corrupt and incompetent that Kenya's ever had. Before the protests, some of his ministers, who've now been fired, scathingly dismissed the mostly young social media critics as a privileged minority. It's only when tens of thousands came out in the streets of around 50 towns and cities that it became clear that dissatisfaction was widespread. Politicians and officials have since been ejected from public meetings. More excesses and corruption scandals have been exposed. Some MPs' offices have been burned. Several remain in hiding. The protests and the anger expressed towards politicians and officials online and on the streets have revealed a crisis of legitimacy for President Ruto's government. Kenyans are now waiting to see how far the appointment of a new cabinet will go to address it. Malcolm Webb, Al Jazeera, Nairobi.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.